Jimmy Phelan came to be the head coach of the Huskies. Coach Phelan had many successful years.
Corner the end zone where Mark Patterson makes the catch with just 34 seconds to go.
Polk right side. Yes! Chris Polk into the end zone. Touchdown, Washington.
With the Cougars leading 27-14 and apparently on their way to victory in the fourth quarter on this, the wettest day of the year in Seattle, Frank Reed and Dan Lloyd put the stop to Hopkins as they swim to the stop.
It's the fourth quarter in the 1975 Apple Cup at Husky Stadium. Time is running out. The Huskies are struggling in bleak field conditions, down 2 touchdowns in a game that they should own. On the sidelines is a new coach, Don James, trying to win his first Apple Cup, and today, even the most loyal Husky fans are going home early. What are the odds that Don James can pull this game out of the mud?
Nesby Glasgow is there to knock it away in the end zone.
Don James came to Seattle as an unknown commodity, but his coaching pedigree goes back to the very cradle of football, Massillon, Ohio, where he was born and raised and where he met his wife Carol, who has been with him all the way.
We grew up about 2 or 3 miles apart, but we were in different school districts, and her school, when she was 13 or 14, was having a fireman's festival. And one of her buddies moved over to my school district, and he knew about the fireman's festival. He wasn't trying to negotiate any relationships or anything. He said, it'd be fun, we'd go over there, they have, a lot of candy and parties, but kids, and so we did, and that's when I met Carol.
Well, he kind of liked me because he had been playing pool at the pool hall downtown Massillon. I had a pool table in my basement, so he found a way to play free pool.
We were married actually in Canton, Ohio. By then we were going into our 3rd year at the University of Miami in Florida. We both went to college together.
After his playing career at Miami, Don James began coaching at the high school level before being hired at Florida State University. From there, James made his way to Michigan and Colorado before landing at Kent State, where he was the head coach from 1971 to 1974. At the end of 1974, Don James headed west to Husky Stadium and the Pac-8 Conference. He replaced veteran Jim Owens, who was ending an amazing 18-year run as the Husky head football coach.
When Owens left, we really wasn't sure who was going to be the coach. And honestly, Coach James from Kent, I'd never heard of him.
His organizational skills and his leadership skills, his ability to take the team, break it down, and then build it back up, and really have people peaking both physically and emotionally at the right time on a weekly basis. You knew where you were going every moment because he knew.
The word potential, I don't think, resonates with Coach James. He wants to see performance. And so if you're a guy that goes out every day and works hard, works at your craft, has a good attitude, is a good teammate, is a good team member, then he's going to reward you.
He's the single most important person in my mind that's ever been a
Husky football and Don James. You can't say one without the other. Like an instant word association for fans, sports writers, players, and coaches. But when James arrived at Husky Stadium in 1974, replacing fan favorite Jim Owens, his reputation did not precede him. In fact, it was quite the opposite.
Husky football, 1975. The James gang moved into town in 1975 to take over the Husky football program, and with head coach Don James, it was quite a football season at the University of Washington as the Huskies played one of their toughest schedules in history.
When Owens left, we really wasn't sure who was going to be the coach. And honestly, Coach James from Kent, I'd never heard of him.
The first thing that you had to adjust to, I had to adjust to, was Jim Owens was Mr. Personality. He was on the field. He was involved in everything that was going on the field. Don is an analyst. Don is almost an accountant by personality and by style of coaching. So all of a sudden we went from somebody who's down on the field hugging you to somebody who's in a tower. So that was a little severe change in just dealing with Don and how do you get things done efficiently in his system. It wasn't Jim Owens handing over a Rose Bowl team to Don James, who came in from Ohio. No, it was a whole lot of questions about what Jim Owens left and what Don James is bringing in.
You know, I never felt like I was in competition with Jim, and I don't think I haven't replaced a lot of people in my life, but I don't think I've ever replaced one that was more gracious. He picked me up at the airport when I flew in. He was seen by one of our alums vacuuming my office, which was his office, cleaning it up for me, and then he spent time with me on coaches, on his staff. So he was just a wonderful guy. He was a gracious, good man. When you have a black quarterback and white quarterbacks, and I think we had a couple of each, you want to make sure your evaluation system is fair.
Don James was cool and calculating. He built a hierarchy that put some distance between himself and his players. But if he saw a teachable moment, he took advantage of it.
I remember one time Coach James came down from the tower at me. And like I said, being a senior, it's not like I made that many mistakes. But I did let the running back cross in front of me. And I was supposed to keep him to the outside. And so he comes down the tower and he taps me on the shoulder and kind of lets me know. I already knew I made the mistake, but let me know in a nice, quiet, low voice type of way, right then and there.
James was known as being tough, fair, and expecting nothing but the best from his players and coaches every day.
I probably could count on both of my hands the number of times that Don said, "Good job." And we went to a lot of bowl games. But you get used to the style, and that was him.
Oregon State having problems moving the ball on the ground, anxious to get back into the football game, put the ball in the air. Al Burleson, who was invited to the Hula Bowl game and the Japan Bowl, intercepting the pass for the Huskies.
You got to find out what coaches want and what they expect, expectations, that type of thing, and how picky they are over certain things. Where one coach might let something go, the other coach won't. And Coach James was kind of like that. He was very technical and picky when it came to little things like tagging off at practice, making sure you kept your right angle and stuff like that.
But James also was so much by the book, by the numbers, he ended up with a bit of controversy when he brought a kid from quarterback Warren Moon.
The first touchdown came as Moon rolled to the left, ran it in for the score. Washington leads it 7-0 over Michigan.
We were convinced that he was a prospect, and he came up, and when you have a black quarterback and white quarterbacks, and I think we had a couple of each, you want to make sure your evaluation system is fair. And we did everything. We logged every pass, every catch, we videoed.
Warren Moon, who was voted the co-player of the year in the Pac-8 Conference, shows off his throwing ability with his 26-yard beauty to spider gains for 6 more points for Washington.
When it came down to, say, me at the quarterback spot, I always graded out very high, and that's why he continued to play me, because I always graded out higher than all the other quarterbacks, and that's why I got a chance to be the starter, is because I did what I was supposed to do every day in practice, and that translated into me being the best player at that position. So he always made it fair, and you always knew where you stood.
I said, Warren, it doesn't matter to me what color you are. The best 11 players are going to be out there, and it appears as though you're one of the best players we've got out there, and you're going to play.
And what a football game it turns out to be. Early in the second quarter, the Huskies break on top as Warren Moon fakes inside to Joe Steele, then keeps and bolts into the end zone for a touchdown to put the Huskies out in front. And Husky Stadium goes wild with excitement.
If James had a soft side, it was off the field when football truly was family. It consumed his personal life and pervaded every aspect of his marriage. But he and his wife Carol loved every second of it.
We wanted the people that were coming here and the young men to know that they were a part of our family, so we had every recruit into our home. We'd feed them a big breakfast every Sunday morning. We'd have up to 80 people. The whole family would pitch in, coaches' wives, athletic directors' wives. Well, I thoroughly enjoyed it. I helped recruit. I would write letters to the mothers after the kids had been to our home, and I got as involved as Don wanted me to be.
Don Feely punts for the Huskies, and sophomore Blair Bush from Palos Verdes, California, runs right through the Cougars' Rufus Cunningham to cause the fumble, and freshman Stan Wilson recovered. Warren Moon, the sophomore for Los Angeles, gets the starting call at quarterback.
The 1975 season of Husky football did not start well. After losing the opener at Arizona State, the Huskies came home and lost to an Earl Campbell-led Texas team by a score of 28-10.
Apparently, Earl Campbell still hasn't had enough as Charles Jackson hits in first on this great goal line stand. The Husky offense then pulls a trick out of the bag as Robbins apparently is in to attempt a field goal. But Chris Rowland keeps the ball, rolls to his right, and throws to senior tight end Nels Peterman for the touchdown. But despite the play, the Longhorns still win it, 28-10. The Huskies' outstanding sophomore flanker, Scotty Phillips, also shows off his running ability with his wingback reverse, good for 12 yards and a touchdown.
Wins against Navy and Oregon evened the season at 2-2 before a blowout loss at Alabama and a defeat to Stanford.
And watch what happens. The pass appears to be intercepted, but Scotty Phillips will be right there to knock the ball loose. It rolls into the end zone, where Gordy Bronson recovers it for a Washington touchdown, but it's not enough. Stanford wins it 24-21.
Halfway through his first season in 1975, James' record was 2 wins against 4 losses, with top 20 powerhouses UCLA, California, and USC still on the schedule.
Chris Rowland hits tight end Gordy Bronson over the middle, and Bronson, the senior from Boise, Idaho, goes 56 yards to score with a beat.
The Dogs righted their ship against Oregon State in a 35-7 beatdown at Husky Stadium and split 2 games against UCLA and California.
The Huskies' Chris Rowland, who threw 4 touchdown passes on the season, is right on target as he finds Greg Martin all alone in the end zone for 6 more points for Washington.
Mighty USC came to Seattle on November 15, 1975, and the Huskies pulled out a victory in the rain.
And Phillips, the junior from Bellevue, who caught 33 passes in 1975 to become the #1 receiver in Washington football history, comes back to get this one for 30 yards. 2 plays later, with the ball at the 12, the Huskies trailing 7-2, freshman Greg Martin, with excellent blocks from Robin Earl and Scotty Phillips, races for the corner of the end zone. He goes in to score as the place goes wild, and the Huskies lead 8-7. The Huskies close out their first season under head coach Don James by beating the Cougars of Washington State, their annual cross-state battle. And with a sellout crowd of close to 60,000 looking on, it turned into a game people will be talking about for years.
So, on a miserable November Saturday in 1975, everything that Coach James stood for was at stake in a rivalry he was just beginning to grasp.
Chris Rowland then dives into the middle of the pile from the 1 to put the Huskies out in front.
The whole sequence of events is so incredible, and the fact that it's 2 rivals and everything that went into that, was the last game for Washington State's coach Jim Sweeney and the first year for Don James, and kind of a changing of the guard in that way as well.
Leading up to the game, it didn't matter what your record was. All they talked about was the rivalry between Washington and Washington State. And I didn't know much about it because I hadn't been up here before, but you quickly learn that it's a pretty bitter rivalry as it gets closer to game day. All the questions you're asked about, the fans are really into it.
First of all, we were favored. And the thing that I learned immediately was that the Cougar team we played in '75 was not the same team we looked at on film. They were better. They were 2 or 3 touchdowns better because they respected us more than we respected them. They should have beaten us 3 or 4 touchdowns. They had us beat.
With time running out in the first half, the Cougars go for the big play as Cougar quarterback John Hopkins rolls out to his right and throws deep. But senior Roberto Jordan is in the right place at the right time and comes up with the interception. And a 27-yard return, and the Huskies are in control again. Warren Moon gets the Huskies on the scoreboard in a hurry with his 30-yard beauty to his wide receiver, freshman Spider Gaines, who catches his first touchdown pass at Washington.
For the Huskies, it was one of those days where the only thing worse than the pouring rain was the Cougar defense. Every drive was a struggle. Third down conversions were few and far between.
The Cougars had so dominated the game up to that point and, really just, looked like they were going to score one more time and just completely salted.
Just when it looks like the Cougars are going to ice the game, their drive stalls at the Husky 24. With a field goal, WSU extends its lead to 2 touchdowns over a Husky team that appears to be drowning. In the fourth quarter, time is anything but on the Huskies' side. The Cougars hold a commanding lead, 27-14.
I think we might have been a little bit too overconfident that we were going to beat them down type of thing, and it didn't turn out like that. Actually, it almost turned out the opposite, where instead of us controlling things, we were sputtering in the rain type of thing. And we just seemed like we couldn't get it together. It just felt like we couldn't score.
There was maybe only about 15 to 20,000 people still there by then. I mean, everybody had cleared out. It was really horrible weather, and
There are a lot of doubts on the Husky side of the ball. For Al Burleson, it was near the end of a very long day on defense.
And the scoreboard's not saying what it should be. We're losing. And then, as I'm going through my reads,
the Cougars gamble, but Al Burleson is there to pick off the pass. And to the shock of every Cougar fan in Husky Stadium on this Saturday afternoon, Al Burleson is on his way to a 93-yard touchdown run.
it was a pass that, they kind of went to the right, and so everybody was going right. And then when I turned it up, there was a couple guys still coming right that I had to try to outrun. But I was soaking wet, tired, heavy. I just remember, okay, don't let them catch me, don't let them catch me. Actually, when I was running, it seemed like it took a long time.
Burleson sets an interception return record for a touchdown, and the Huskies are now down by just 6 points.
You couldn't celebrate long because we were still losing. You know what I mean? So it was still like, it was like a momentum changer, and we felt like that in the sidelines. I mean, I got guys, slapping five, pumping. Moon threw up the ball that it wasn't the best thrown ball, but, look at the conditions. I mean, I guess in football, all you want is a chance, right? So the ball was up in the air.
I think close followers of the program at the time, realized there was something going on a little bit. A never say die type attitude that I think maybe showed that, there was a new sheriff in town and a new way of doing things.
The Cougars stall on their next possession, and the Huskies get the ball back with the clock running down. Warren Moon goes back to pass.
Moon threw up the ball that it wasn't the best thrown ball, but, look at the conditions. I mean, I guess in football, all you want is a chance, right? So the ball was up in the air.
I was throwing to spider gains, and I tried to throw it as far as I could, but the ball just came off my hand wrong, and I'm a guy that usually throws a pretty good spiral, but that ball kind of, waffled in the air like a duck. But fortunately, it went off a Washington State player who tried to intercept it, and there's Spider standing there waiting for the football, and he catches it and scores a touchdown, and we end up winning the football game. So I become a hero out of a play that you wanted it to be successful, but you just didn't think it was going to be successful the way it ended up.
That's just kind of the football gods smiling brightly on the Huskies that day, even in the gloom of the stadium.
With less than 2 minutes to play, the Huskies have done the impossible, made up a 2-touchdown deficit to take a 1-point lead. Time will run out for the Cougars, and the Apple Cup will stay in Seattle. At the close of the first season as a Husky coach, Don James wins his first Apple Cup, and his entire Husky career lays out before him.
Next time on Greatest Moments at Husky Stadium. USC comes to a sweltering Seattle, and the Huskies send Todd Marinovich and the Trojans back to LA with a humbling beatdown. All I saw was purple. Next time on Greatest Moments at Husky Stadium.